Hey, what's up? Samuel Leeds here, and today, this is Thoughtful Thursday. We're going to be discussing mortgages. And if you're too young to buy a property, if you're too young to get a mortgage, if you can't get a mortgage at all for whatever reasons, or if you just want to know the ins and outs of how to finance a property, no better person to speak to than a qualified independent mortgage broker, which is why I've brought on my good friend onto the show, Joe. Joe Lane, great to have you on the show.
Good to have
Really good to talk with you. You're from Swansea?
Newport. Invest in Swansea though.
Invest in Swansea. The great thing about you, Joe, the reason I like you so much is number one is you're an investor yourself.
Yeah.
I know you've got a double-digit property portfolio.
Yeah.
Which is great. Number two, you're an expert mortgage broker. And number three, you're really young.
Yeah.
So how old are you?
23.
23. So it's just great to have that, because when I started out in property, I was super young. So why don't you start, Joe, just by telling us, anyone who's watching this and doesn't really understand property finance, just tell us a little bit about what you do and why it's a good idea to have mortgages instead of trying to just buy properties for cash.
Okay, so I am a specialist finance broker and I specialise in property investors. So the reason why people should be using mortgages to leverage their funds to basically enable them to buy more is because when you're borrowing with a bank or any type of lender, you're paying a certain amount to lend that money, so you're paying on the interest. But if you're making rental income and you're still making a net profit once that mortgage has been paid, that will enable you to then use other funds to buy more property and get a return on that investment as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've met some people. I met one lady, she said to me, Samuel, I'm flat broke, I've got no money, there's no way I could get into property, I'm struggling to put food on the table for my kids, all this stuff. And it turns out that she had a property that had been left to her as an inheritance that she hadn't touched. It was sat there empty with no mortgage, and the property was worth 300,000. And I'm just like, you think you're broke, but you're really not.
You're not.
And your job that you're doing, and you're earning £1,500 a month, working your ass off, if you just sell that property or refinance that property, you could go and buy a little portfolio that could enable you to never have to work again.
Exactly.
So it's almost knowing how to set up your finances properly, and it can make a massive difference. So, I mean, have you come across that sort of stuff?
I get that a lot, and I mean, and the main thing is to straight away look at the asset, because if the asset could do with a refurb and then there's potential to grow the value of that asset beyond the cost of what it would take, then it's potential to, for example, take out some short-term finance to give you some money to then refurb that property and increase the value further, to then enable you to put it on the market and then sell it at a higher price than you would have straight away if you're looking to sell. Otherwise, then to refinance it at a better sort of loan based on that loan to value.
Joe, here are the common asked questions that I get all the time, and I can't even answer them because I'm not a mortgage expert at all. So, question number one, is it possible to buy a property investment without owning your own home?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go into that in a minute. Number two, is it possible to buy a multi-let or a HMO with owning currently no property investments?
Yes.
Wow, okay. Third question is it possible to refinance your house and use all of that equity to invest in other property investments?
90% of the equity. Up to 90%.
Of course, you need to leave some in there, right?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, of course. So, but you can, if you've got equity in your property, you can pull a large percentage of that money out and reinvest it in property.
Yeah.
Okay, let's tackle those then. Let's talk a little bit about those. So the first one then, just getting out started in property. I don't have any properties at the moment. I don't own my own property. I'm living with my parents, or I am living in a rented accommodation, and I want to get finance to invest in property. How does that work?
So basically, when you go for a residential mortgage, not talking about buy-to-let, mortgage lenders will generally lend you 4.5 times your gross annual income, obviously minus any loans or credit cards might be factored into that affordability. Now, if you don't have your own home and you're looking to buy buy-to-let, then buy-to-let lenders will treat you in the same way in terms of maximum borrowing. So if you are in a situation via your income and your credit cards and loans, so that you could maybe borrow 200,000 on a residential basis, well, that would be a maximum borrowing potential then on a buy-to-let.
Okay, that's cool.
But not on a bridging loan. If you're looking at bridging, affordability isn't calculated in the same way.
Yeah.
So if you
just to
found a
explain
deal,
for anyone that's not sure, what's the difference between a normal mortgage and a bridging loan?
well, a normal mortgage is a long-term type of loan,
Yeah.
and a bridging loan is short-term finance, generally no more than 12 months.
Yeah.
Some bridging products extend to 18, but it's definitely a short-term finance facility and should not be used for a long period of time. Bridging is great when you're in and out quickly because it enables you to do many great things in property.
Does it help having a residential property if you're wanting to invest, or is there no advantage to that at all?
There are definitely more doors open to you. Like you asked me earlier if you could buy a HMO without having your own property.
Yeah.
Now, if you have your own home, you could do that on your own. But if you don't have your own home, you would sort of need to either JV with someone to buy that on a mortgage, or you would need to create a HMO and then refinance it, so you're no longer a first-time buyer when you do come to refinance that HMO.
Okay, really, and the great thing is about mortgage brokers, and particularly good ones like yourself, is a mortgage broker is someone that basically just goes to all the different lenders, has an individual or an investor in front of them, and they creatively think, how can I get this person this finance and make it happen, basically.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much criteria to know about. I mean, the high street banks, I mean, you might have BM Solutions and TMW that are linked to the high street banks, and people use them quite often, but some people don't know that a lot of the high street banks that lend on HMOs, they require the whole house to be under one tenancy agreement and things like this. But if you know about specialist lenders that don't have that requirement, you've just got more doors open to you, potentially higher cash flow and just more options in general.
Okay, so talk to me about HMOs. There's a lot of people that are told, and I'm sure it makes it a lot easier, but you say it's not essential, that before you can buy a HMO, that you need to own a buy-to-let first. No. You don't think that's the case? No.
So let's say you've just come to me now. You don't own any property, but you've got money to put down on a deposit and you've got enough money to refurb a property. You're looking at a property now, it's a 3-bedroom house. It's in a non-Article 4 area, so you don't need planning permission to turn that property into a HMO.
Yeah.
You buy that property on a bridging loan, yeah?
Okay.
You turn it into a HMO 5-bed, you get it to regs, and you get a HMO licence on the property. Start renting out the rooms. Simultaneously to finding your tenants, you then go to a lender such as Kent Reliance that doesn't require you to have any experience in buy-to-let to lend to you on HMO. Now, as long as there's no more than 8 bedrooms, that is within their criteria, and you could refinance up to 75% loan to value before 6 months' time. There's no 6-month rule with Kent Reliance. Now, Kent Reliance do go up to 85%, so if you did want to, maximise your borrowing potential and pull all that cash back out and reinvest it, that's great, and you can do so, but that would be after 6 months with Kent Reliance. So if, for instance, you've done a refurb, you're 2 months in on the bridging loan, you've refinanced it on month 3, you could go on Kent Reliance's 75% discounted variable mortgage, which doesn't have any redemption penalties, which means that when it has been 6 months, flip over to a 5-year fixed, and then further advance up to 85% loan to value to pull all your cash out.
Very, very good, very good. So if you were buying, would there be a way to buy a property, like say a 4-bed multi-let, without having to get a bridging loan and then refinancing it?
If you JV'd with someone who was a homeowner, then yes. If not, then no.
Okay, cool. So basically, it's just about being creative and thinking, rather than saying no, it's about saying, well, how can I then?
Yeah, because you can put it all together. You can find someone who's got either the experience or is a homeowner themselves, or create
I know you know a bit about my story, and I've explained to you how I bought my first house when I was 17, and I did it with the help of putting it in a family member's name.
Yeah.
Say for a 15, 16-year-old that was really excited about property, prepared to learn, prepared to work hard, and they just physically are way too young to actually buy a property, what advice would you give to them?
Well, I think the same thing goes for example, someone who might be looking to set up a company for their children. Maybe you've got 2 parents, they're looking to set up a limited company and their children are like 1 or 2. It'd be the same way as if you had someone who's 15 and they wanted to invest at that point. Because what you could do is open a limited company. Whether you're 15 or 1, you could have 100% shares in that company. But what actually really matters is who's the director of that company. So if mum and dad wanted to go director, they would actually be the guarantors on the mortgage, and then the shareholders, which would be the children in this case, wouldn't actually go on the mortgage.
That's pretty cool.
So the lenders will underwrite it on the parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
But then could the directors at some point resign and then the kid becomes the new director down the line?
Yeah, when they get to the age of 18, that is then possible, or depending on the lender, maybe 21. So I know Precise Mortgages, they will allow you to open a limited company for your children. So they're 100% shareholder, parents are directors. They will underwrite it on your parents. But Precise Mortgages have a minimum age of 21 for their mortgages. On their bridging is 25.
It's a bit like what happened to me, because when I was 17, I was thinking, I can't wait to be 18 and I can start buying properties. Because the normal conversation that we have is, how can you buy properties starting with no money? And of course, there's loads of ways you can borrow the money from someone. There's lots of different ways you can do it. But I knew that bit. But my problem was, I'm too young to buy a house. And I'm thinking, I can't wait to be 18 so I can finally be old enough to buy a house. And then my broker said to me, I'm really sorry, but to buy a buy-to-let property, you've got to be 21. And I'm thinking, I can't wait till I'm 21. And that's why I had to be really creative. And I came up with a similar concept to what you've done. Really, really good advice. Okay, cool. If someone wants to go ahead and get a mortgage, like, what will be the first steps? So I always say, speak to a broker. So how would that work for you? Like, what happens?
So if they're looking to just get a standard mortgage, buy a property and run it, that's already done, no refurbs, quite clear cut, then it would just be a case of them coming to me. Once they've had an offer accepted, then we would need standard documents like ID, proof of address, then it would be income documents and bank statements to evidence the income. Yeah. Because this is all the checks that the lenders will do. Once we've got ID and we've verified the individuals, then we're in a position where we can then apply for a mortgage, but we would need to know what the purchase price is going to be, so we need to see what the offer. So
it's interesting that you said the first thing is go and find a property.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people, they get so, I don't know if I get a mortgage, I don't know this. The first thing I always say is just figure out how to find good property deals, because if you go to a broker and there's no property in mind, you don't know what strategy you want, you don't know what area, you've just got no idea, it's harder to help them. All right, cool. So talk to me a little bit about people that have got bad credit, or people that can't. How could they, you've mentioned, just joint venture with somebody. How would that work?
Well, I mean, bad credit could go the same way if it was really bad anyway. We're talking bankruptcy now. That could go the same way as when you're working with foreign nationals. So obviously, as you know, foreign nationals don't have access to the UK finance products like Kent Reliance, Precise, all of this sort of stuff. But they do if they're less than 24% shareholder in a limited company. Because if you're less than 24% shareholder, generally you don't need to go on the mortgage application, which means you don't get underwritten. So if you've got bad credit, seriously, and you're not on the mortgage application, then you're not underwritten and it's no longer a problem. But if you do have bad credit and you want to be more involved in that, then there are certain lenders like Vida Home Loans that have tier 1, 2, 3 and 4 products where they'll credit score you and see which tier you fall into. Now, tier 1 being the cheapest and tier 4 being the more expensive, Vida still have very specialist types of criteria, such as a 3-month rule if you're refinancing from bridging rather than a 6. And they will lend up to 85% loan to value, which is probably one of 3 in the market.
Yeah, very, very
without
good.
Putting my words on it, roughly.
Yeah. Let's just talk now, not HMOs, or just general buy-to-let property, buying a house to rent it out. What are the lenders saying? What are you needing to put down as a deposit these days?
15% would be the minimum.
15% is low.
It is low, yeah.
That's very low. See, when I teach at the crash courses and stuff, I teach 25%. 25%.
Yeah, yeah.
The fact that you can put down just 15%. So in other words, you're saying that if you've got a house you're buying for 100 grand, you only need £15,000 deposit to be able to buy that property. Yeah,
with certain lenders. I mean, some lenders have different criteria, like Kent Reliance, for example, that do it. Their minimum loan's 100k on that type of loan to value. But you go to Vida and that would fit.
Pretty impressive.
Exactly, yeah.
So, based on what I teach, which is put down 25% and then have 75% on the mortgage, and I think that's a little bit more. Because I think it's great to leverage yourself and leverage your money, but there's a point, isn't there, would you say?
Yeah.
Where it can be a little bit too stretched. Yeah. You don't want to be in a situation whereby you're really leveraged and then suddenly the prices dip a little bit.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, when you're highly geared, some lenders will not look at you. So TMW, for example, when you get to a certain amount of buy-to-lets that are owned, if your portfolio is geared to any higher than 75% loan to value, they will not look at you.
Yeah. When I started out, I would have happily had 100% mortgages.
I would have as well.
You know, billion %. Because I'm starting out, I'm desperate to buy some houses.
Exactly.
I've currently got nothing. I wanted to put down as little as possible and leverage the bank's money as best I possibly can. 100%.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, in your situation, my situation, when you've got a portfolio, you've hit your financial goals, then you might not be so bothered about getting as absolute much as possible.
Yeah.
How are interest rates doing at the moment then? So typical buy-to-let, 75 LTV.
Yeah. So starting from 2.79 with Precise at 75.
Yeah.
Which is low. And
2.7
that's
is very
limited
low.
company that. So limited company borrowing a couple of years ago was obviously more expensive, as you probably know.
Yeah.
But it's getting cheaper now because it's becoming more common.
Yes.
So banks are getting used to underwriting it. TMW, a high street lender, have now come out with limited company products. So they're getting used to it. The rates are steady. I don't think anyone's really bothered about Brexit. Magellan pulled out of the market not so long ago. That wasn't because of Brexit, that was because they found it too competitive in the market and they couldn't reduce their rates to compete.
Wow, interesting.
So it is, yeah.
What do you think about my general formula? Because what I say and I love to every sort of 6 months or so, I love to just talk to a broker about this and check that I'm not saying anything out of date. But when we're finding buy-to-let, single-let properties, I generally say, if you, as a template, now if you can do better than this, then that's great, but as a general rule of thumb template, if you can work on the basis of put down 25%, have 75% as a mortgage, and then your interest payments, interest only, is going to be around about 3%. Does that seem reasonably realistic?
Yeah.
So if you're one of those people that are really negative and conservative and pessimistic and always see the glass half empty, at the moment, there could be some people that could say, I'm worried about interest rates rising, they're really low at the moment, so what would you recommend those people do?
Fix him for a 5-year fixed if they're risk adverse.
Yeah, okay, and how much would you be able to, if you're fixing them, does it make it a lot more expensive, or can you still do it around 3-4% maybe?
Yeah, it's still going to be within that. I mean, Precise, for example, they're at 3.84 for a 5-year fix.
That's not bad. Can you fix them for 10 years?
Yes.
Because I think we just fixed one of ours for 10 years just because we thought why not, and I think it was about 5%.
Yeah, Shawbrook do a 10-year fixed.
Yeah. So if you're worried about, so what you're telling me is if you're worried about interest rates going up, you can, if you want, fix the interest rates for up to as long as 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's okay, interesting. So really, if you're fixing them for 10 years and you're still making a good profit from cash flow.
Yeah. I mean, 3.5%, 75%, 5-year fix, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
And when people say to me, what happens if interest rates go up, what happens if interest rates go up, I just think, you know what, the only thing that I see going up at the moment are rents.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
So...
And the rents would have to follow if the interest rates went up. That's part of the economy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think the economy could probably benefit with the rates going up. I personally stack my deals on 5-6% anyway, so...
Yeah.
If the interest rates went up, I would still be making profit on my deals.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're paying £200 a month on the interest, and you're renting it out for £700, interests have got to go up and a ridiculously long way before you even break even.
But if you're worried about 11% or whatever, it would still work on high cash flow in investments such as SA or HMO.
Yeah.
So,
exactly. Or if you really will, just fix your rates.
Yeah, exactly.
So, why do you think people do get worried about things like this?
I think it's just pessimism, sort of.
But it's not even
in a
logical.
social well, I think it's in a social aspect because when some, the old saying, if something's too good to be true, sometimes it is, and that's what people I think are just got stuck in their heads. So you go around and. Like, I personally don't accept advice. I only accept counsel from people who are qualified.
What's the difference?
Well, counsel is advice from people who are qualified in the subject matter that you seek advice in.
Yeah, okay.
And advice is not necessarily asking anyone who's got any clue.
So advice would be from your parents who haven't done it.
Exactly.
Or from your school teachers, or Dave down the pub would be advice, but counsel is from, okay, that's good.
So generally anyone who is worried about interest rates shooting up significantly, I don't think has looked into it enough.
Yeah, that's true. What are your thoughts on Brexit, from the economy point of view in the market?
I think whatever happens with Brexit, it'll be good.
Go on, explain.
I think you can make a positive out of any scenario that happens with it.
I guess if prices go down and they start rocketing down, which could happen, then great. It means you can buy discount properties and then hold them and wait for them to go up again because they will.
Yeah, they will. Because my portfolio is quite diverse in the sense that I've got single lets and HMOs. if the prices went down, the HMOs would cover the mortgage payments.
Yes.
And then I'd have an opportunity to then buy more properties at a very low price.
Where are your HMOs?
Swansea.
Okay, is
in
that
Wales.
good?
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, the student market's changed a bit. Professionals is what I do.
Yeah.
But obviously, Swansea is part of Wales. Wales is Article 4, the whole of Wales.
Yeah.
So we don't have the luxury of...
Is the whole of Wales Article 4?
It is.
Are you sure?
It is, yeah.
I know you need a licence to be a landlord.
I'm pretty sure that the whole of Wales is Article 4.
I'll look into that.
I think that's definitely... And could you let me know if it's not? Because I'd like to create some.
No, sure. Do you mind giving us a little bit of inside information on your project at the moment? Because I know it's massive and exciting.
Yeah, so there's one that we're trying very hard for now. There's 35 apartments.
35 apartments.
35 apartments.
Dude, that's big boy stuff.
Yeah, it's grade 2 listed, and we're hoping for 10 houses around as well.
Mate,
Plan
awesome.
is to just do the 10, sell them off.
And you're 23.
Yeah.
23 working on projects like that.
But no, I mean, stuff like that, I mean, it's great. But me personally, my goals for this year are single lets. So I've done the HMO stuff, great, happy with that.
Yeah.
But now I want single lets.
Why?
Because single lets are never ever going to go out of fashion. Everyone needs single lets. Families are growing. We're in a housing crisis. So when I do single lets, there's no planning, really, unless you're really going to try and uplift the value. But generally, it's so easy to buy that property with little money down, do a light refurb, refinance it, get all your money back out.
I mean, if you're not putting any money down,
exactly.
It really doesn't make any difference.
But with the HMOs, because I'm from Wales, and obviously, like I said about the planning issues that I've been having, there's just a lot more to consider, and it takes a lot longer.
So do you need planning to turn any single let house into a HMO, even if it's just a 3-4 bed HMO? Do you need planning in Wales?
Yeah.
Oh, so you will be right then about Article 4.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people get confused about the difference between Article 4 and licensing.
Oh no.
So okay.
Yeah.
So you will be right then about that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, good for an investor that's savvy and knows what they're doing, because then you haven't got the competition of anyone trying to do it under permitted development. But yeah, I mean, it just makes that a bit more difficult, because you can't just, for example, buy a property on a bridge with the intention to tell the lender that you're going to turn it into a HMO, because to do that, they're going to want to see your planning proof that it's actually you're going to buy that property, turn it into a HMO in a timely manner, and then be able to refinance out or sell. What
do you think of, because something really interesting, I know when Section 24 was announced, that must have been in 2016?
Yeah.
And now there's news articles talking about it as if it's like just happened or just been announced. I'm thinking, this is old news.
I think it's because people are feeling it a bit more in the pocket now, aren't they? So
now it's suddenly news now. But people have been talking about it for years. But it's really interesting because Section 24 was announced, and then what happened is, as you know, everybody suddenly started buying through a company.
Yeah.
Because when you buy through a company, Section 24 doesn't apply, right?
Yeah.
However, buying through a company used to be a nightmare. But I always say this, the people that make the rules are usually the same people that make money in property. So as long as you're in the top 1% and you're educated and you're aware and you have these sorts of talks, you can usually find the loophole to get around the bad problem. So so buying through a company is now easier than ever. And from what you've said, that sounds like that's the case.
Not even from a tax perspective, but from a maximum borrowing perspective, mortgage-wise, there is actually more benefits buying a limited company, because if you're a high rate taxpayer and you're buying a limited company, all lenders will stress you at 125% rental coverage, which, in other words, for people who don't know, means that if you're a high rate taxpayer buying in your own name and you're getting stressed at 145%, you can borrow less in your own name as you could in a limited company.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Exactly.
And also, I mean, I used to buy as an individual up until about 2016. When Section 24 was announced, and then I'm thinking, and I was advised by my accountant to start buying in a limited company, so I only started buying through companies in 2016. What's the process then of buying through a company? Because I know they've made it look much easier now, because effectively you buy through a company, you can set up a company today, buy through it tomorrow, and you can just act as a guarantor client in the company. So how does that work?
Well, do you know what? A lot of people come to me and they say, well, I've got this business and I'm thinking about buying a couple of properties in there. And I say, whoa, hold fire just a second. I think people just assume that lenders prefer to lend to a company that's 2 years old, but in fact that's not true.
Love it!
Because when you've got a limited company that has been trading, it's had directors resign, there's skeletons in the closet, you know, there's more risk to that lender to lend to that company.
Yeah.
What they'd much prefer is a brand new company with the standard industry codes to be just for the letting and management of property, the sale of owned property. There's about 3, I can send that out. You've probably got information on that.
Yeah, sure.
But
it's messy, isn't it?
It is.
It's just when you've got a company that's been trading.
It's messy.
Whereas if you just say, no, this company was actually just set up yesterday.
Exactly.
Okay, no questions to ask.
Exactly.
And it's harder and a lot more long-winded if the company's been going.
If it has been trading, there are a couple of buy-to-let lenders that look at it, like Landbay, but generally you're going to have to go to a commercial lender, which is more expensive in interest rate, legals, everything really. So basically, you're better off opening a brand new company and then buying property in it tomorrow.
Talk to me about mortgage hosts. I can't get a mortgage, but I've got a joint venture partner or a friend or whoever that's very happy to be my mortgage host.
When we talk about host, I think for you not to go on the on the mortgage application, you would have to be less than 24% shareholder in the limited company.
Talk to me then about buying a property. This is what everyone's excited about right now.
Yeah.
Buying a property, refurbing it, refinancing it, pulling out as much possible money as you can, ideally all of it, and then recycling your cash again and again. How does that work, and can you help people with that on a finance level? Yeah,
definitely. So, I mean, buying a property that needs a large refurb, you don't actually need all the refurb money there. So, say you find a property that's worth 200,000 and it needs, say, 100,000 spending on it. There are lenders out there that will lend you 68% of the purchase price net, and then 100% of the build costs. So that means that...
How much of the build costs?
100%.
So, okay, talk me through that.
So let's say that if you didn't have this lender, you'd need to fund 200,000 of the purchase and 100,000 towards the build.
So you would think if you were all putting your own money in, it would be 300,000 cash.
Straight in.
200 for the house, 100 for the... Okay, and what about if you do it with smart finance?
So you just need 32% deposit. If you've got experience, Octane Capital will do that, 32% deposit.
So you put 32% deposit down on the property, but then you'll be able to get 100% finance on the development works.
Yeah, as long as the GDV is healthy.
Which it would need to be anyway, otherwise you wouldn't buy it.
Of course, yeah, and then that should fit.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, Joe, I've really enjoyed picking your brains over this interview, and it's really good working with you.
Yeah,
thanks for sharing the golden nuggets, and hopefully do it again, maybe in 6-12 months, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of new stuff to say by then.
Definitely, it's always changing. So yeah,
Fist pump, man. Boom, thanks so much.
Cheers.